During World War II, the skies were filled with fast, sleek fighters, but none were as big or as bold as the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. Nicknamed the Jug because of its bulky frame, this American fighter looked more like a flying tank than a nimble dogfighter. At first glance, many doubted its potential. It was massive, heavy, and seemingly too clumsy to hold its own against agile German aircraft like the Bf-109 or FW-190. But what few realized was that the P-47's weight was its secret weapon. Beneath that rugged exterior was a Pratt Whitney R-2800 double Wasp engine, one of the most powerful piston engines ever built, capable of propelling the Thunderbolt at over 430 ft. This combination of brute power and unmatched durability turned the P-47 into one of the deadliest fighters of the war. The P-47's creation was nothing short of a gamble. Republic Aviation engineers, led by Alexander Kartveli, knew they needed something different to match Axis air power. Instead of going small and light, Kartveli went the opposite direction, designing the largest single-engine fighter the world had ever seen. The plane weighed nearly 8 tons fully loaded, with thick armor plating 8.50 caliber Browning machine guns, and an enormous radial engine that consumed fuel like a beast. Many at the time thought the design was absurd, but Kartveli believed in the concept of power through resilience. The P-47 wasn't built to dance in the sky. It was built to survive anything: flak, bullets, and even mid-air collisions. At the heart of the P-47 Thunderbolt was its most defining feature, the Pratt Whitney R-2800 engine. Producing over 2,000 horsepower, this 18-cylinder monster gave the plane unmatched speed for its size. It could climb faster than expected and dive faster than almost any other Allied aircraft. The Thunderbolt's massive turbocharger, tucked in its fuselage, gave it high-altitude performance that rivaled anything Germany had. Pilots quickly discovered that the plane's weight helped it dive like a meteor, and just as hard to stop. When the Thunderbolt roared downward, it could reach speeds near 500 mph, allowing it to break off dogfights or deliver devastating ground attacks before the enemy could react. The Thunderbolt's heavy armor made it almost indestructible in combat. German pilots often reported hitting P-47s repeatedly without bringing them down. Its self-sealing fuel tanks, thick cockpit glass, and rugged construction meant that many pilots returned home in aircraft riddled with holes. One famous quote from a US pilot said, "A Thunderbolt could bring you home with half its tail missing." This toughness gave pilots confidence. They could dive into enemy fire to attack ground targets and still make it back. The Luftwaffe soon realized that while the Thunderbolt wasn't the most agile opponent, it was one of the hardest to kill. The P-47's true potential emerged when it began flying long-range bomber escort missions over Europe. While the Mustang would later take the spotlight, the Thunderbolt was there first. Blazing the trail, it protected B-17s and B-24s from German fighters, taking on interceptors head-on. Its 8.50 caliber guns could shred anything in their path. When the bombers reached their targets, Thunderbolt switched roles, diving down to strafe trains, convoys, and anti-aircraft positions on the way home. This dual-purpose role made the P-47 one of the most flexible fighters in the Allied arsenal. The Thunderbolt's weight wasn't just a hindrance. It was perfect for ground attack missions. Its ability to carry bombs, rockets, and even napalm tanks turned it into a flying artillery piece. The P-47 could unleash up to 2 500-pounds of ordnance in a single strike. In Europe, It was instrumental in breaking German supply lines, destroying tanks, and cutting off retreating forces after D-Day. The sight, and the terrifying sound, of a diving P-47 became a nightmare for Axis troops. Its heavy frame allowed it to absorb ground fire that would destroy lighter aircraft, making it the ultimate low-level attack machine. Facing the Luftwaffe was never easy. German pilots flying the agile Messerschmitts and Foch Wolfs often underestimated the Thunderbolt. They expected to outturn it. But once a P-47 got behind them, its devastating firepower made short work of anything unlucky enough to be in its sights. And if a German tried to dive away, big mistake. The P-47 could dive faster than almost any aircraft in the sky, using its weight to build terrifying speed. Many German fighters simply couldn't follow without breaking apart. Slowly, the Luftwaffe learned to fear the Jug and its relentless pilots. While the P-51 Mustang became the poster child of American air power, the P-47 did much of the heavy lifting. It flew more combat missions than any other U.S. fighter in Europe and destroyed more targets than any other aircraft type. The Thunderbolt's range improved with drop tanks, allowing it to escort bombers deep into enemy territory. Pilots praised it for its stability, reliability, and ability to get them home even when badly damaged. In many ways, the P-47 was the workhorse of the Allied air campaign, dependable, tough, and always ready to fight. Flying the P-47 required skill and muscle. It was a heavy machine, and early trainees found it challenging to handle. But once they understood its power, pilots grew to love it. Aces like Francis, Gabreski and Robert S. Johnson became legends, flying the Thunderbolt. Johnson once returned to base with his canopy jammed shut, controls damaged, and his plane riddled with over 200 bullet holes. Yet it still flew. Stories like his spread quickly, cementing the Thunderbolt's reputation as a pilot's guardian angel. Though most famous in Europe, the P-47 also saw action in the Pacific. There, it faced the nimble Japanese Zero, a completely different kind of enemy. The Zero could outturn the P-47, but it couldn't match its speed, firepower, or toughness. Thunderbolts used boom and zoom tactics, diving down for lightning attacks and climbing away before the lighter Japanese planes could respond. This strategy proved devastatingly effective, giving the Allies another edge in the Pacific theater. The P-47 wasn't just a plane. It was a symbol of American industrial power. Over 15,000 were built, each one a marvel of mass production. Republic Aviation's factories ran around the clock, turning out Thunderbolts by the thousands. Mechanics loved the plane because it was easy to maintain despite its complexity. The P-47 represented what the U.S. could achieve when engineering ambition met industrial strength. A flying fortress born from determination and innovation, the Thunderbolt played a key role in shaping modern air tactics. It proved that fighters didn't need to be fragile or lightweight to dominate. Its success paved the way for later jet-powered attack aircraft that emphasized survivability and firepower over maneuverability. The P-47's combination of speed, toughness, and versatility became a blueprint for future fighter design, a philosophy that would carry into the jet age with aircraft like the F-84 and A-10 Thunderbolt TUE, both spiritual descendants of the Jug. When the war ended, the P-47 had earned its place among the greats. It destroyed over 7,000 enemy aircraft and tens of thousands of ground targets. Its pilots became heroes, its reputation unmatched. While it was eventually replaced by faster jets, its influence lived on. Even today, Aviation historians and pilots look back at the Thunderbolt as one of the finest piston-engine fighters ever built. A machine that proved size and strength could triumph in the skies. After the war, the P-47 slowly faded from headlines, overshadowed by sleeker aircraft like the Mustang and the early jets. But among veterans, it never lost its respect. Many were sold to Allied nations or used in post-war air forces for years. Museums and collectors around the world still preserve and fly restored Thunderbolts, their rumbling engines echoing across airfields as a reminder of a time when brute force ruled the air. In the end, the P-47 Thunderbolt was a paradox. Heavy yet fast, bulky yet graceful in power, a machine that defied expectations. What started as an engineering gamble became one of the deadliest weapons of World War II. Its massive frame, once doubted, turned out to be its greatest advantage. The Thunderbolt didn't just win dogfights. It changed the way air wars were fought. It was proof that strength, when harnessed with skill and courage, could dominate even the most hostile skies. The Jug may have been the heaviest fighter, but it was also one of the most unbreakable. And that's why its legend still soars today.